Bolivia's Supreme Electoral Tribunal has announced a new election date, Sunday, October 18th, and a possible second round on November 29th. The U.S. and Russian presidents discussed strategic stability and arms control in a telephone conversation. According to the World Health Organization, around 10,000 healthcare workers have been infected with COVID-19 in Africa. From the headquarters of Telesur English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Laura Palmero. The president of the Supreme Electoral Tribunal of Bolivia, Salvador Romero, announced a new election date on Thursday. The elections, which were scheduled to take place in September, have been postponed and will now take place on Sunday, October 18th, with a possible second round on November 29th. According to the electoral authorities, the new date provides better conditions for the protection of health as well as for necessary logistical deployment across the country. In a statement, the Electoral Tribunal urged citizens, state power, political forces and candidates, the civil society organizations and the media to support this decision. This Thursday, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez tweeted about the Cuban government's readiness to treat Bolivia COVID-19 patients. According to a statement issued by Cuban Foreign Ministry, despite the attacks launched by the de facto government against Cuban collaborators in Bolivia, a clinic belonging to Cuba located in La Paz will be open to offer treatment to Bolivian coronavirus patients as an act of humanity in the face of the aggression to which the island is subject, even in the face of the pandemic. The government of St. Kitts and Nevis is preparing to welcome tourists, but has not yet decided on a date to reopen its borders. According to a statement issued on Wednesday by the Minister of Tourism, Lindsey Grant, the phased approach will see the country fully opening at a local level to begin with, then regionally and lastly internationally. The minister announced that the government is starting training programs this week, which will run through August 27 for workers in the hospitality sector, including restaurants, bars, and tour operators. Grant assured that the country has already flattened the curve of the coronavirus pandemic, and the next big task will be resuming tourism operations. St. Kitts and Nevis has reported just 17 cases and no COVID-19 fatalities. Puerto Rico has abandoned its reopening plans after a coronavirus spike was reported in the island. Governor Wanda Vázquez had ordered bars, gyms, marinas, theaters, and casinos to shut again until at least July 31st. In addition, sales of alcohol will be prohibited after 7 p.m. and restaurant capacity will be limited to 50%. One of the main issues Puerto Rico has faced is the lack of discipline in the use of masks and social distancing by tourists. The country has reported more than 4,500 cases and a death toll of almost 200. China has presented a plan that seeks to strengthen cooperation with Latin America and Caribbean in the economic, social, and political spheres, as well as in the fight against the coronavirus pandemic and the following recovery. During a virtual meeting with his regional counterparts, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi highlighted mutual support during the COVID-19 pandemic, which poses unprecedented challenge to global development and stability. In order to overcome the challenges, the Foreign Minister proposed that each joint project be directed towards the population well-being and called the strengthened solidarity and collaboration in these efforts. Yi reiterated that China's willingness to support the region's vaccine research, to grant special loans for infrastructure works in public health, and funds for the implementation of United Nations food and agriculture programs. Tropical storm Gonzalo formed in the Atlantic on Wednesday and is expected to become the first hurricane of the season. According to the National Hurricane Center of the United States, at 11 a.m. Thursday, Gonzalo has sustained winds of 65 miles per hour and was about 585 miles east at southern Windward Island. A hurricane watch has been issued for Barbados, as Gonzalo is expected to strengthen into hurricane over Thursday and peak at Category 1. A watch is typically issued 48 hours before tropical storm force winds are anticipated to reach the location, according to the National Hurricane Center.
Distance of miles right now.
The network of intellectuals, artists, and social movements in defense of humanity has awarded Telesur with the Homeland is Humanity distinction. The award was created by the Network in Defense of Humanity to honor those people, social organizations, or institutions that undertake work that enhances the development of human life, supporting equal opportunities, freedom, and social justice. According to a statement, the network believes that the multimedia platform known as Telesur, headquartered in the city of Caracas, Venezuela, is worthy of these distinctions due to the historic role it has played as a revolutionary communications platform since its founding 15 years ago. The mayor of Portland, Ted Wheeler, was targeted Wednesday night as he met with demonstrators protesting against police brutality and the deployment of federal troops in U.S. cities ordered by President Donald Trump. Thousands of demonstrators took the streets Wednesday night in the latest round of protests that were initially sparked by the police murder in May of African-American George Floyd. However, reports of camouflaged federal officers snatching Portland protesters and taking them away in unmarked vehicles have added fuel to the fire. The mayor had previously called for the withdrawal of federal officers from the northwest U.S. city, accusing them of dangerously escalating the situation, using abusive and unconstitutional tactics against protesters.
Where it's going to happen in cities that are controlled by Democratic leaders. That is a use of police force, federal police force, for political ends. That is not an acceptable solution anywhere in America. And we are on the front line here in Portland. If we are not able to get the federal administration to back off and leave our city, it will happen all across the United States, jeopardizing our United States Constitution.
I will be right back after this break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump and his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin discussed strategic stability and arms control during a telephone conversation. The two leaders agreed on the importance of holding consultations on the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty. They also highlighted the importance of the Russian initiative to hold a summit of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council to discuss international security problems. According to reports, President Trump reiterated his hope of avoiding a coastal trilateral arms race between China, Russia, and the United States. Both sides have stressed the need for collective efforts to maintain regional stability and the global nuclear non-proliferation policy.
That broad government, from local authorities to the president. As I've said many.
Negotiators working to establish new trade relations between the United Kingdom and the European Union admitted on Thursday that there was a long way to go, despite some progress made in the complex talks. In comments delivered at the end of the latest round of talks, chief EU negotiator Michel Barnier argued that there were sticking points and made clear the consequences. The UK left the European Union on January 31st, but remains inside the EU's tariff of economic zone until the end of the year. The parties are trying to secure a new trade agreement before the deadline to avoid a no-deal scenario, which would see tariffs and other restrictions imposed on the trade between the UK and the 27-nation bloc.
To reach an agreement on our future partnership, there will be far more friction. For instance, on trade in goods, in addition to new customs formalities, there will be tariffs and quotas. This is the truth of Brexit. This is the truth of Brexit, and I will continue to tell the truth. If we want to avoid this additional friction, we must come to an agreement in October at the latest, so that our new treaty can enter into force on the 1st of January next year. This means that we only have a few weeks left and that we should not waste them. Let me also remind you that we only have little time, in fact the same time, to properly implement the withdrawal agreement.
And the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson also announced that the Chinese government is considering not to recognizing British national overseas passport as valid travel documents after the United Kingdom announced further details of a pathway to citizenship for some Hong Kong residents.
The UK has ignored China's solemn representations and insists on making political manipulations on the issue of BNO passports. UK has openly violated its commitments, violated international law and basic norms of international relations, and interfered in Hong Kong affairs and China's internal affairs. China strongly opposes this. Because the British side violated the promise first, China will consider not recognizing UK BNO passports as valid travel documents and reserve the right to take further measures.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin has responded to the U.S. government's order to close China's consulate in the city of Houston.
In July 2018 and January 2020, the U.S. opened China's diplomatic pouch twice without authorization. This act flagrantly violated the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and the Vienna Convention on Consular Relations, and seriously violated China's diplomatic dignity and security interests. For a while now, the U.S., with its ideological prejudice, has continued to monitor, harass, and even arbitrarily detain Chinese students and scholars in the U.S., and accuse Chinese scholars on the presumption of guilt. The U.S. methods seriously infringe on Chinese citizens' legitimate rights and interests, seriously interfere and damage normal personnel exchanges between China and the U.S. This is naked political persecution.
China launched its first rover to Mars this Thursday, coinciding with a similar U.S. mission as the two powers take their rivalry into deep space. The Chinese mission is named Taiwan-1, which means questions to heaven, and comes from a classical ancient Chinese poem. Engineers and other employees cheered at the launch site on the southern island of Hainan as the rover lifted off award on the Long March 5, China's biggest space rocket. The mission includes a Mars orbiter, a lander, and a rover that will study the planet's soil. The mission will arrive in the red planet's orbit in February 2021 after a 7-month and 34 million mile voyage. The rover will be deployed at Mars 3 months later.
At 12:41 on the 23rd of July 2020, Taiwan-1 probe, China's first Mars exploration mission, was launched on the Long March 5 Y4 rocket at China's Wencheng spacecraft launch site. After 2,167 seconds of flight, it entered the Earth-Mars transfer orbit. The rocket and spacecraft separated normally. The probe's solar panels and the directional antenna opened normally. The launch mission was a complete success. Mars is very difficult to explore, not just because it's far away. It takes usually 6.5 months to fly there, but Mars has an atmosphere, so the landing process is especially difficult.
On Thursday, the World Health Organization Director General rejected as false an allegation from U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, saying that he owned his position to a deal with China.
One thing that really matters to us and which should matter to the entire international community, it's saving lives. And WHO will not be distracted by these comments. One of the greatest threats we face continues to be the politicization of the pandemic. COVID-19 does not respect borders, ideologies, or political parties. And I have said it many times, COVID politics should be quarantined.
And according to Vietnamese experts, the country's economy will grow 3.8% in 2020 as long as there is not a second COVID-19 outbreak in the second half of the year. According to the Vietnamese National Economic and Political Research Institute, the Asian country was one of the few in which gross domestic products increased in the first half of the year. In the second half of April, Vietnam entered a phase of new normality that allows it to focus on reviving its economy without neglecting certain preventive measures. The trade and investment agreements with the European Union and the low prices of oil and raw materials were highlighted as favorable external factors for this growth. So far, Vietnam has reported just 401 COVID-19 cases and has been free of local transmission of the virus for 97 days. On Thursday, Japan marked the one-year countdown to the 2021 Summer Olympic Games. They marked the day the area arena was lit up in Olympic colors. The building was first lit up in blue as tribute to health personnel for their efforts in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic. Then, after 30 seconds of darkness, the venue switched to Olympic colors. Tokyo's Governor Yuriko Koike said the fight against the coronavirus is the main priority for the year ahead. She made her comments as the Tokyo region confirmed a record 366 new coronavirus cases on Thursday. And we have more stories coming up after this final break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. According to the World Health Organization Regional Director, around 10,000 healthcare workers, most of them nurses, have been infected with the novel coronavirus in Africa.
Majority of those who have been infected have been nurses, but we have had all categories of healthcare workers, doctors, laboratory technicians, and even some of the people who are providing ancillary support in healthcare settings infected.
About the COVID organics, we are also working, protocols have been established, and both team, WHO and national teams are working to push forward the clinical trial related to the COVID organics. So our collaboration is there, and we are monitoring the situation that is changing quite fast.
And the number of coronavirus cases in Africa surpassed 700,000 on Thursday, according to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. At least 16,000 people have been killed by the virus across the continent, while more than 400,000 patients have recovered. According to the latest figures, Southern Africa has reported 400,000 cases, while North Africa has recorded over 140,000. South Africa remains the worst-hit country in the continent, with almost 400,000 cases and a death toll that has climbed to almost 6,000. West African leaders gathered in Mali's capital, Bamako, on Thursday in a fresh push to end the escalating political crisis in the country. In an exceptional one-day summit, the presidents of Senegal, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Nigeria, and Niger scheduled meetings with Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta and the leaders of a protest movement calling for his resignation. The unrest has deeply concerned Mali's neighbors and allies, who feared that the country, which has been fighting an ongoing jihadist insurgency, could slide into chaos. India's health ministry reported a record surge of over 45,000 new coronavirus cases on Thursday, taking the total number of 1 million. Over 1,000 COVID-19 deaths were also reported, bringing the nationwide death toll to nearly 30,000. Nearly 60% of the COVID-19 fatalities in the country have been reported in the three worst-hit states of Maharashtra, Delhi, and Tamil Nadu. Many states in India are reimposing lockdowns as health authorities struggle to stop the spread of the virus. India is now the third hardest hit country by the pandemic in the world after the United States and Brazil. In Nigeria, unknown armed men raided a village in the northwest of Kaduna State. Local authorities and representatives of the community said that the group, the attackers on motorbikes, raided the village of Goragan overnight. The attackers killed 11 people and seriously injured 15. They also set houses, motorbikes, and church and a car on fire. Community leader Jonathan Asaki said that the raid caused more than 550 people to flee their homes. And Iraq opened its airports to commercial flights on Thursday as part of the government's plan to ease restrictions following months of lockdown. The move is part of a group of measures introduced by the government that includes the reopening of malls and other commercial centers by the end of July. The reopening comes despite record numbers of coronavirus cases, which are expected to exceed 100,000 this week. Iraq's health ministry reported over 2,700 new cases over a 24-hour period this Thursday. According to ministry statistics, over 4,000 people have been killed by COVID-19. And we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Laura Palmero. Thank you for watching.